He's in the slot over the hash here, gets vertical, goes straight down the hash mark, and then just turns on the jets to get behind this defensive back. Nice leaping ability to make sure that he is blocking out this defensive back with his body, even if the defensive back is able to leap and contest this ball in the air. This is just a really cool play. His speed and his leaping ability really make this a play that looks so easy for him. And this is just not a play that you get out of a ton of receivers, so really cool to see him put together the speed and leaping ability on this one. Hello, good people. Carolina Panthers fans, football fans, and random internet viewers who are at least a little bit curious about how football is played at the pro and college level. My name is Tim Noonan. I have been a Packers fan for the last 20 years and a fan of scouting college players for the last 8 years. And today I will be looking at the Panthers' first-round pick, wide receiver Xavier Legette, the fifth-year breakout star out of the University of South Carolina. If you like the video, make sure to take a second to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and after you've done that, hit the little bell so that you know the next time I'm on here talking about football at the pro or college level. Without further ado, let's get into what to expect from this breakdown of Xavier Legette. The first thing I want to talk about with Legette is his athleticism and his physicality. He's got a very flexible body. He has got good leaping ability. He high points balls well for receptions, and he is a more than capable blocker in the run game. We'll see a few clips of him run blocking throughout this video. All those things I think are just they come out of his physicality and his athleticism. The second area of his game, we're going to look at his route running, and not so much his technical route running, like how low he gets out of the stem of routes or how quickly he breaks on an out route or on a slant. But really where he shines in route running is his ability to read defenses, set defensive backs up, and then subvert what they're expecting him to do, just to set one thing up and then do another thing. So we'll look at how he manipulates defenders that way. In the third section of the video, I will talk about his release at the line of scrimmage and his ability to separate from defensive backs. This is an area of his game that I think is an area of growth, and given his improvement in 2023 from where he was the previous years, I think he's more than capable of shoring this up and getting better at releasing at the line of scrimmage and creating greater separation from a technical route running perspective. Finally, I will talk about how I see him fitting with the Panthers offense, and I will share my draft grade on him for this year and where he stacks up compared to other NFL draft prospects from this year. I think he is a great yards after catch threat. I think he is a versatile player. He's not quite Deebo Samuel. That comparison has been thrown around. But he is his own player, but he can be used in a variety of ways to create with the football in his hands after the catch. That is enough preview. It is time to look at his athleticism and physicality with a little bit of a sneak peek at his ability as a run blocker. Against Georgia in 2023, we see him line up on the outside here, right next to the 40-yard marker, and he gets outside of this defensive back, sets it up well, and just makes a really nice catch. You get to see his ability to adjust in the air, to high point the football, and to twist his body so that he can come down with this ball and make a nice toe tapping catch. So in real time, we'll just see, gets outside of that defensive back. Rattler puts the ball where only he can get it, and somehow he comes away with it. And it is even more impressive in slow speed, right? Cuts towards the sideline here. Gets his head around quickly. Doesn't take a ton for him to get up pretty high. And that ball, kudos to Spencer Rattler. Great placement on that ball past the defensive back's hands. And just nice, strong hands from our guy Legette on this one on the sidelines. Later in the same game against Georgia, we see him lined up over the hash mark. He breaks on an out route. And again, Rattler puts the ball where only he can get it, and he comes down with it with a nice adjustment in air. And again, secondary angle. You see him driving upfield. He breaks at the stem of the route, gets his head around quickly, and again, just does not take a ton of effort for him to leap and get this ball. He can do this off of 1 foot, and that's really promising. We're going to look at this play a couple times in this video because he puts a few things together to beat the Georgia secondary and win this route. On the first pass of this clip, we're just going to look at his pure speed and athleticism here. So just gets across the field. He comes off screen and then comes down with this ball. He's in the slot over the hash here, gets vertical, goes straight down the hash mark, and then just turns on the jets to get behind this defensive back. Nice leaping ability to make sure that he is blocking out this defensive back with his body, even if the defensive back is able to leap and contest this ball in the air. This is just a really cool play. His speed and his leaping ability really make this a play that looks so easy for him. And this is just not a play that you get out of a ton of receivers, so really cool to see him put together the speed and leaping ability on this one. We're going to see a very similar situation here against North Carolina. Eyes back, looking for that ball. Nice leaping ability here to high point that football. You can see right here, he and the defensive back both have eyes up for this ball. He puts himself in a good position, makes sure to get both feet down. Just really awesome adjustment in the air. The hands are strong. Defensive back gets a hand up. It doesn't matter. Legette is a tough dude. He's able to come away with this pass because of the combination of speed, leaping ability, strength, just all of his athleticism put together on that catch. Closing out this section, we're going to look at a run blocking play. He isn't a dominant run blocker, but he is consistent, and he uses all of his 6'1", 220-pound frame just to wedge himself between defenders and ball carriers. So that's what we see on this play, right? He's just out here at the bottom of the screen, keeps himself in between that defender, and just looks like a brick wall. You know, this defender doesn't really have a chance. And this is pretty much what it looks like on every run blocking play for him. He's, you know, sometimes defenders will get around him or they'll be able to disengage, but if they have to run straight through him to get to the ball carrier, it's just not happening. The second area of Legette's game, and my favorite part of his game to go through, is his ability as a route runner. And I mentioned this earlier, but as a route runner, he isn't winning routes by really quickly snapping out of the stems of routes or getting really low on a comeback route to fight back to the sidelines. I think he probably has to improve some of those technical aspects of route running in terms of just getting low at the stems of routes and breaking out quickly. But between the ears, how he processes defenses and how he manipulates defenses to run really clean routes and attack space on the field with the athleticism he has is really impressive. His ability to process and just get to space effectively. So looking at this same play from the first section against Georgia, what we're going to focus on here is how he sets up this post or this over route. It's sort of a morphed route where he goes straight vertical down the hash mark, cuts a little bit inside, and when he cuts inside, that leaves defenders not sure if he is going to break to the outside of the sidelines, like if he's giving himself more space to go right, or if he is going to break left. He goes up the hash mark, gets to the inside of the hash mark for a yard or two as he's staying vertical, and has not given up if he's going to go right or left. Then declares over the middle of the field. His head is around, and he stays vertical rather than flattening this route out to keep getting upfield. In half speed, what we're seeing is, right, he gets back into the interior of the field, and again, he's just staying square. So these two safeties who are responsible for him don't know quite yet which way he's going to go, which way they're going to have to declare to follow him. So when he cuts inside, this safety's hips are facing him, meaning the safety's going to have to flip his hips, and Legette knows he's got some space to work with here because it's going to take this safety a second to flip and run with him. And he takes this 45-degree angle and stretches it out a little more vertically towards the end zone, creates space against this DB, and then obviously the leaping ability, the catching ability is nice. Against Florida in 2023, what we're seeing here is he is in the slot over the hash mark here, and he will curl around this linebacker in this small little like curl flat or hook zone, and he's on some sort of like skinny post or maybe some kind of in-breaking route, and it's not It's not very vertical like a post. It's not flat like a dig or an inside route. What I'm seeing on this play is he is just taking the right angle that's going to get him the most space against this defensive back over the hash mark. So when he gets to the break of this route, right, he just keeps flat and keeps that separation from the defensive back. Right, when he breaks out here, he looks like he might be going a little more vertically. A post route would be run at more of a 45-degree angle from this point, cutting up more closely to the first down marker in the middle of the field here. And if he runs this vertically, then he's going to put himself more closely to the defender who is behind him. By flattening out the route, he maintains the distance from this defensive back just to keep himself as open as possible. So I just really like the flatness of this route. I like how he keeps it so that the defensive back is never closer than 1 or 2 yards to him. And he gets depth down the field later on in that route. Another play from the slot here, this one against Clemson in 2023. What we'll see is he starts to cut inside and go vertical, almost like he's going to run a corner route or a sail route or a 7 route, whatever you want to call it. The setup on this route works particularly well on this play because Clemson is in a man defense, and so this defensive back doesn't have help towards the sidelines, and so he's going to be a little bit more hesitant to aggressively attack in a middle-of-the-field route. So by setting up this corner, even though Legette may not know that they're running a man coverage, he leaves himself open to having options and having space against this defensive back. So Legette breaks towards the hash mark, gets upfield, and then cuts over the middle. And by the time he cuts over the middle, this defensive back just doesn't have any – he's not in the area code. Partially, the defensive back has given up so much space because he knows he has safety help over the middle, right? But if Legette starts breaking just straight over the middle to where all the space is, the safety has a better chance to know what Legette is doing, and the safety can rotate down and help a little more closely because he has taken this angle vertically up the hash mark for a few yards. He stuns the defensive back that's guarding him and the safety over the middle of the field, and there's just no help when Rattler decides to let this ball go. Nice first down for Legette. This play against Georgia is one of the first plays I saw of Xavier Legette. This was the play that really made me a big fan of his route running and his ability to read defenses. So what we see here is he's just one-on-one outside here with this defensive back. And you can't really see it on this angle. We won't watch it through. But just so you know, it's a first quarter, 2nd and 11. This is a very good time to just go get a first down and bail your team out of a tough 2nd and long situation. So spoiler alert, Legette does that. Makes a nice catch at the sticks. But what we see here from Legette is he sneaks into this blind spot of the defensive back, and as soon as the defensive back isn't looking, throws on the brakes. And I mean, I don't think this defensive back plays this very poorly. He's trying not to get beat over the top by Legette. This is just a perfect run by Legette to eliminate the space between him and the defensive back, right? And so now the defensive back has to turn and run because Legette has closed this space. But as the defensive back is turning to run, Legette throws on the brakes, and it is wide open for this nice little curl route, first down. Just an awesome read, awesome timing from Legette here to know when this defensive back, right there, as he turns his head, okay, we're throttling down on the brakes right on the first down marker. Nice pass by Rattler. First down, bailed out of a 2nd and long. Obviously, Legette has some strong parts to his game. And like any NFL prospect, he's got an area of growth, which is just his release off the line of scrimmage and creating consistent separation. Obviously, we've seen from his ability to read and manipulate defenses, he can create separation by showing them one thing and with a little sleight of hand, doing another thing. The area that I want to see him improve is just as a technical route runner, which includes winning at the release at the line of scrimmage. The release is just when you have a defensive back rolled up on you, how well are you beating them at the line of scrimmage to get free and create some space for the route that you're running? Against Clemson in 2023, what we see here is this defensive back has a ton of space between him and Legette. This should be a play where Legette is able to maintain his space. But this defensive back is patient, waits for Legette, and stays close on the route. On the previous clip against Clemson, we saw Legette be able to manipulate a defensive back by looking like he was going to go one way, by opening up the route possibilities. And he tries to do the same thing here, right? He is on the hash mark, cuts inside, goes vertical, and you see him right as he goes off screen is when he's starting to break out of the route. And this defensive back just isn't going for it. He is able to follow Legette out of the break of that route. And even though I can't see that one off screen, just from seeing other clips of Legette, I am pretty confident that what's happening here is at the stem of the route, Legette is not getting low enough and exploding out quickly enough to get separation from this defensive back. This separation issue comes from a lack of consistency around breaking out of those routes quickly. Against Florida in 2023, what we see is this defensive back ends up playing a close coverage on him at the line of scrimmage, and he's just not able to get free from this defensive back. He's not able to create separation at the stem of the route because, again, you see he's just not getting low and breaking out. You see he's bending his knees a little bit. He's bending at the hips a little bit, but not quite getting low in a position where he can sort of snap and explode out of the stem of the route. I think that little bit of technique, if he can add that to his game, I think it's going to make a huge difference on these routes when defensive backs are not going to be so easily manipulated by how he runs routes, or when the routes are just very straightforward and you just have to go beat a guy based on your technical skills and athleticism. Against Mizzou here in 2023, we have a solid play where he gets out of the release well, but just doesn't have the explosiveness at the stem of the route to break out and get a ton of separation. There's more of a rounded movement at the stem of his route rather than a snap or a break, and the play is not to his side, so he may just be running a sort of a decoy route here. Even still, never know when the play is going to come back to your side, so you want to have that separation. And he's just sort of running like it's a dead sprint the whole way, rather than getting low with his waist and with his knees to snap out of the stem of this route. Last clip here. We are looking at a game against Texas A&M. He's at the bottom of the screen here, and he just gets very wide towards the sideline trying to get past this defensive back, and the defensive back does not let him release. It's really good coverage by the DB here. Legette has to be smoother at the snap of the ball here to get past the line of scrimmage without taking up so much space towards the sideline. Right, he just gets completely taken out of this play. What you want to see here is a little bit more quick movement to get past the defender, or some hand fighting. Just get into the body of the defender to try and get vertical past him. And Legette sort of just bubbles out and takes himself out of this play. In this last section, I will talk about where I see Legette fitting with the Panthers and how I think he stacks up to other receivers in this draft class. So his best fit with this team, I think, is as a yards after catch creator. In the first couple of years, I think he will need to develop, like I said, as a route runner, breaking out of the stems of routes. I think he will do well to manipulate defenses. I think that's going to continue to be a part of his game. I think there may be a little bit of a learning curve as he figures out how much of an advantage he has physically, because there's just going to be a talent level stepped up at the secondary position on defense. So he'll have to figure out how to manipulate those defenders who have better speed than the guys he's been playing against. But for now, what I think will work is putting the ball in his hands, because he is tough to take down. He reads running lanes well, and he just cuts up field. He does not do a lot of dancing side to side. He has a 6'1", 220-pound frame, and he uses that frame to win. So in this play against Tennessee in 2023, what we're seeing here is he bubbles outside. Looks like a little bit of a fake pass play, but you know what? He just gets upfield, makes a man miss in the backfield, gets a nice first down for the offense here. Against Clemson in 2023, we see him here at the Debo position, that wide receiver playing running back, and we just see him on a nice little wheel route here, and he has strong hands through contact. Just a really tough play. He hurts his knee and he stays in this game. He plays through the pain the rest of this game. And this is a really difficult catch, knowing that you're going to get blown up by the defender. And really, really cool play to see Legette make that catch. Against Georgia in 2023, first play of the game, we see him going into a run block here. He's off screen here, but right there, you catch him, hands on that defender. He's pushing him out towards the sidelines, and he just has the physical presence to do that to a lot of defensive backs in the NFL. I think this is something you can expect from him every single Sunday in Carolina this year. Against North Carolina in 2023, this is a fun one. He gets wide open and just is so tough to bring down. It takes 3 dudes just to get him to the ground, and he doesn't even get to the ground. He just ends up getting pushed to the sidelines. And this is what made him a strong kick returner. It's what makes him a yards after catch threat anytime he touches the ball. I think this is something that Carolina can take advantage of in his game right away, because that 6'1", 220-pound frame is not going to get any easier to tackle at the next level. And using his frame again here against North Carolina, we're seeing another run block. Just wedges himself between that defensive back and the runner, helps open up a nice run lane here on the outside. Just awesome block, uses his physicality well. And like I said, he doesn't dominate guys. On this play, he just makes it impossible to run through him so that this defensive back can't impose any sort of effect on this play. So just nice, solid run block. That's the kind of thing you're going to see from him in Carolina this year. And one last play here, another yards after catch play on a screen, and just does well to get upfield, minimize the movements, does not do a ton of left to right, doesn't do a ton of dancing behind the line of scrimmage, just really nicely gets upfield after the catch. Ball's a little low, he adjusts to it, and he just does well to get a good run, and that you see his athleticism there really stretches the defense. Everybody has to fly over to him because he is so fast. It puts a strain on the defense. So that is Xavier Legette. I think he is a really solid receiver. I think he can quickly step up to be the number 1 receiver in Carolina. That was a position where they needed a lot of help this year, and I think they're going to find that in Legette, not just as a pass catcher and a route runner, but also as a guy who you can leave out there for all 3 downs, because he is an effective run blocker, and he's going to take whatever defensive back he's responsible for out of a run play every single time. Looking at where he stacks up against other wide receivers in this draft class, this was a loaded draft class for receivers. I think in a different year, he probably would have gone a little bit sooner than 30th overall. But with Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy's in the mix, Brian Thomas. There's just so many different kinds of receivers with different strengths, and they're all so great in their own right. But where I see Legette stacking up is just as a solid starter right now. Day one when he shows up, he is a solid wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 because of the combination of things that he can do, because of the athleticism that he brings to the field. I don't think he'll be dominating defensive backs one-on-one because that wasn't his game in college. What his game was in college was manipulating defenders and then throwing on the gas to make the most of his athletic skills after he had gotten himself some space by reading and manipulating defenders. As I covered in the third section, I do want to see him become a better technical route runner, and that was sort of where he fell short compared to these other wide receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously, that guy's a technician. That guy is masterful as a route runner. Rome Odunze, another masterful route runner with great physicality, and that is not to take anything away from Legette. Those guys are just next level. So I think Legette could grow into that kind of next level receiver, but it will take a year or two at least just for him to feel out the speed of the NFL game and develop those skills as a technical route runner. One thing that's going to be really important for him, and the reason I keep emphasizing being able to get low and out of the breaks of those routes quickly, is because he has limited length in his arms, so he can't stretch his arms out very far to reach past defenders. And early in his career, I think he'll be fine with that because of his leaping ability, and he can create space if the quarterback is able to high point the ball for him. But as his career goes on, what's going to land him consistently clean catching windows is that ability to break out of those routes, because those longer arm defensive backs are just going to have an easier time against him, because even if he does gain a little bit of separation against those guys, longer arm defensive backs can sort of reach in and create a little bit of havoc on those pass attempts. The last thing to cover about Legette is just the fact that he came out of nowhere this year. He was not on a ton of people's radars going into 2023. He had 42 career catches. He was coming into his 5th year as a receiver at South Carolina, and it is a bit of a head scratcher as to why it took so long for him to put it all together and just exactly how he exploded onto the scene. In the first game in 2023, he had as many catches and as many yards as he had had in any other season before that, basically. It was kind of incredible just to see how quickly he came out of the gate and how many games he had like that this season, where he just really thoroughly dominated entire defenses. And that it's really exciting when a dude breaks out like that. It's uncommon, but because it's uncommon, you also know it makes it harder to project where he's going to be in the NFL. And so if he had had 2 or 3 seasons like this before, then the stock would be a lot higher. There would be more skills to look at. There would be more game film to look at. But because we're just looking at 1 year, it was his last season, it does raise questions of, if he regresses, what does he regress to? I don't think he's a gamble. I think his physical gifts and his ability to read defenses are consistent, and they're going to be there this fall. It's just there is a little bit of a question as to what was going on those first 4 years. So I don't think that's a huge concern. I don't think that's a red flag or anything. It's just something unusual about Legette's game. Even before he had the breakout performance in the first game of the season, he seemed to have a sense that this year was going to be different. In interviews leading up to the season, he talked a lot about committing himself to the process of getting better. He talked about working out with Deebo Samuel in the spring of 2023 and how that impacted him. And he very clearly had a focus on just being the best player that he could be with the gifts that he has, as the person that he is. And it was really cool just to see those things come together for him in 2023. So Panthers fans, you got a good one. This guy is really fun on the field, and his interviews off the field are just as entertaining as his play. He seems like a very grounding presence in the locker room, and seems like the locker room could use that, because last year was a little bit rocky between the coaching staff and the players. So I think Carolina's got a really good setup in their receiver room with this guy, and I'm excited to see what he does in that blue and black. So again, if you like the video, take a second to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the little bell so that you know the next time I'm on here talking about football at the pro and college level. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciate you taking the time. Hope you have a lovely day. Peace.